Welcome to the second module of MGT 190. This module discusses the importance of studying strategy and introduces the Business Model Canvas, a framework you can use to analyze the business of a company. In the previous module, we defined strategy and likened it to a roadmap that provides us with a clear direction to our destination. After all, management needs a clear plan in order to strengthen its competitive position, beat back its competitors, and improve its financial performance. Having a clear and distinctive strategy helps a company set itself apart from rivals, attracts customers in spite of competitor efforts to erode a company's appeal, and can be a reliable ticket to above-average profitability. But why should we study strategy? What is our ultimate purpose, our holy grail, so to speak? It is simple. We want to achieve lasting or sustainable competitive advantage, which we define as having a critical mass of buyers who prefer your company's products and services to the products and services of its competitors because superior value is being provided. Furthermore, these buyers remain loyal and continue to buy from the company, despite its competitors trying their best to match or surpass the company. If these two factors are present, then you could say that we have lasting competitive advantage. Companies all operate within a broader context that consists of the wider economy and is affected by factors such as technology, the dynamics of the industry it is operating in, population demographics, government regulation, and many more. Within this context lies a company's capabilities, what it can do. Elsewhere lies the needs and wants of the customers, and just like a good Venn diagram, there are customer needs that are within the company's capabilities and those it cannot fulfill. To complete our diagram, we add a third spot, what our competitors offer. Again, there are instances of overlap between what we and our competitors offer and what competitors offer and what customers are looking for. So where do you think we want to focus on? Well, you can't be a fourth-year business management student without developing a taste for Venn diagrams, right? Why, surely this is the strategic sweet spot, the place where we want to be, correct?
Wrong!
We actually want to be here, the spot where our capabilities serve customer needs, but is being neglected by our competitors. Given that for the purpose of this course, we are outsiders trying to analyze a company's strategy and do not have access to insider information, how do we identify a company's strategy? We do it by observing what the company says and, more importantly, what it does. How does it negotiate with third parties, such as creditors, suppliers, distributors, and customers? The actions it takes to strengthen its bargaining position can be instructive in letting us know how top management thinks. Second, what are the actions the company is taking in order to increase sales and gain market share? There are two main ways of doing so: by improving quality, such as adding more features, having better design and service, or offering a wider selection of products and services, and by lowering the price, which is facilitated by cutting costs. Third, what is the company doing with regards to entering and exiting product and geographical market segments? The fact that it is focusing on specific markets is instructive in itself, since that requires trade-offs, which is a hallmark of strategy. Fourth, how does the company respond to opportunities and threats? The actions it takes to exploit market opportunities and defend against perceived threats gives an open window to the priorities of top management. Fifth, what are the actions being taken to improve competitiveness, which can either be purchased through mergers and acquisitions or by forming strategic alliances and collaborative partnerships? Six, what are the approaches taken in the management of operations, such as research and development, production, sales and marketing, finance, and other key activities. And finally, what is the company doing to upgrade, build, or acquire key resources and capabilities? In fact, knowing which resources or capabilities are being prioritized is another good window into the company's strategic thinking. Before we go too deeply into strategy, it is important to take a step back and evaluate a company's business model by asking two key questions. Why should customers buy from us? And how do we make money? In other words, what is the company's value proposition and what is its profit proposition? This is important because if the business model is not viable, then the strategy is flawed and the company's ability to survive in the long run is sus. Let's look at a few examples of business models. The advertising business model is characterized by providing content that people want to consume for free, which is the value proposition, but charging advertising fees to companies who wish to sell to these people. The advertising fees are based on the size of the audience. As the saying goes, if you are not paying for the product, then you are the product, and should be high enough to more than recover the cost of providing the free content. This is the profit proposition. This business model has been used since the 19th century with radio stations and television channels. In the online age, this is the dominant way to monetize an audience. Facebook and Google basically run on advertising, and in fact, Google shares advertising revenues with website publishers and YouTube content creators via its AdSense program. The top YouTube channels can earn millions of dollars per month, so being a YouTuber is a viable career path even in the Philippines as long as you have the right charisma and make videos that people want to see. The freemium business model has a value proposition of giving away a core service for free and providing extra and improved services for a fee. The profit proposition here is to attract a large number of free users and eventually convert them into lucrative paying customers. Many internet services, such as Gmail, Dropbox, and Proton VPN, operate on freemium models. The vast majority of casual games like Genshin Impact and Fortnite also operate this way, where you are able to play the game for free, but need to pay real cash if you want to have more playing time or access to better equipment and capabilities. Related gaming business models here include microtransactions via the purchasing of loot boxes for real cash, with gacha as a notorious Japanese variant. Under the pay-as-you-go business model, the value proposition is that customers will pay only for the amount they use, as opposed to the opposing subscription model, where a monthly fee is paid. The profit proposition is to capture customers who would otherwise not subscribe, thus increasing the customer base and making money back through volume and future conversion of customers to subscribers. Also known as prepaid, this is the dominant business model in the mobile phone industry in the Philippines, with Globe, Smart, and Dito Telecommunity providing prepaid SIM cards. Prepaid internet is also widely used, and in the NCR, Meralco even offers prepaid electricity. Under freebie marketing, the company offers value to customers by selling a one-time purchase product at a very low price, sometimes even below cost. The intention is to drive up sales of the complementary goods. These have extremely high margins and are designed to be purchased repeatedly, such that they basically subsidize the base product. This is a common practice of companies that sell disposable razors with replaceable blades. Hence, another term for this business model is called razors and blades. As you might imagine, customers do not like this business model, even though it is used in more products than you think. For example, inkjet printers are often sold at a loss, with a genuine printer ink being one of the most expensive liquids you can buy, even more expensive per ounce than human blood or the finest wines in the world. Less commonly known is that the game console industry can also be described as freebie marketing, with both Sony and Microsoft actually making a loss on every PlayStation and Xbox sold. Nintendo is the exception, since it insists on making a profit with each Switch and 3DS it sells. Under the crowdsourcing business model, the company offers value to customers by allowing them to obtain products or services from a large group of people instead of coming from the company's employees. The company is merely acting as the marketplace for facilitating transactions. Since it doesn't have to hire a lot of employees or keep a lot of inventory, the commissions it charges to the seller is basically pure profit after subtracting the cost of server hosting. The concept of crowdsourcing has grown in popularity as use of the internet expanded. Today, we can buy food from a wide variety of vendors by looking at the marketplaces of GrabFood, Foodpanda, and Let's Eat Buy. Airbnb competes against hotels by crowdsourcing bedrooms without having to build or own a single building. eBay, Alibaba, Lazada, and Shopee offers products that they themselves don't stock. And Fiverr, Freelancer, and Upwork underpin the gig economy by connecting people looking for part-time or project-based workers with people looking for a little extra income. Of course, not all business models have to be necessarily legal. For example, we can argue that kidnap for ransom is a perfectly legitimate business model by our definition. What's the value proposition? Why, the kidnappers provide the family of their abductees the safe return of their loved one after paying a rather exorbitant room and board cost, of course. But can we really put a value on human life? As for the profit proposition, the kidnappers charge a high enough ransom to compensate for the costs of getting caught. Of course, they must also choose their targets wisely and attack only soft targets who have the means to pay. If, for example, they kidnap a grandchild of Duterte, then that is probably not a good life choice. The kidnap for ransom business model is widely employed by criminal groups and terrorists such as the Abu Sayyaf group and the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. In 2005, a PhD student from Switzerland, Alexander Osterwalder, published his thesis, which describes a company's business model by dividing them into categories, a branch of philosophy which we call ontology. This was eventually developed into what is called the business model canvas, which consists of 9 building blocks across 4 categories. The first 3 building blocks are classified under a company's organizational infrastructure, with the 4th building block classified under product. The next 3 building blocks expand on customers, and the final 2 blocks deal with the financial aspect. The building blocks are key partners, key activities, and key resources, with value proposition describing the product, and the customer aspect is split into customer relationships, channels, and customer segments, with cost structure and revenue streams describing the financial aspect. Under the key partners building block, we ask who our key partners and suppliers are, what they do, and what we need from them. Under key activities, we define the things we need to do in order to support our value proposition, customer relationships, distribution channels, and revenue streams. And we do the same for the following under the key resources section. Basically, the former was what we must do, and the latter is what we must have. Under value proposition, we determine what value we deliver to the customer, specifically what problems are we solving and what needs are we satisfying, and what are we currently providing to each of our customer segments. Under customer relationships, we describe the types of relationships that our customer segments expect from us and those that we have already established. How are they integrated with the rest of our business model, and how much do they cost? Under distribution channels, we describe how each of our customer segments want to be reached and how they are currently being reached. We define how our channels are being integrated and which ones work the best and are cost efficient to maintain. Finally, how are we integrating them to our customers' day-to-day activities? We define our customer segments as those who we are creating value for and those we consider as our most important customers. Under cost structure, we list down the most important costs inherent to our business model. For example, R&D and marketing costs are important to Apple's business model, while Samsung has to deal with product manufacturing costs. What are the most expensive key resources and activities that we are currently maintaining? Finally, revenue streams describe how much customers are willing to pay, what they are paying for, and how they are currently paying. How do they prefer to pay? And also, how much does each separate revenue stream contribute to overall revenues? Key partners are important because they aid in the optimization of resources and activities and can result in reduced risk and uncertainty, since risk is being split across the partners. Furthermore, they provide a way to quickly acquire resources and activities that would otherwise be very hard or expensive to get. To aid in the description of key activities, they can be split into three categories: production-related, problem-solving related, and platform and network-related. Key resources can be divided into physical resources, intellectual resources such as patents and copyrights, human resources, and financial resources. Here are some things that may add value for the customer. We have newness, better performance, customization, just getting the job done, design, brand and status symbol, lower price, provides a cost or risk reduction, accessibility, and convenience and ease of use. Examples of relationships that can be established with customers include personal assistance, dedicated personal assistants, self-service, automated services, communities, and the opportunity to co-create. There are 5 factors that are important for a distribution channel. First, is the customer aware of it? Second, does it help customers better evaluate our value proposition? Third, does it make it easier for them to purchase the specific products and services they need? Fourth, can we actually bring the product to our customers? And fifth, what kind of post-purchase customer support can be offered? Customer segments can be broadly categorized into mass market, market niche, market segments, diversified, and a multi-sided platform. Depending on its strategy, a company's cost structure can be cost-driven, in which case it focuses on having the leanest possible cost structure with a value proposition linked to low price. It typically opts for maximum automation wherever possible and outsources as much as it can. In contrast, a value-driven cost structure focuses on the creation of value with its value proposition linked to quality. This type of structure won't be cheap. Costs can also be divided into 2 based on how they behave with regards to production. Fixed costs such as salaries, rent, and utilities do not vary with production levels, while variable costs such as hourly wages and cost of materials do. Economies of scale and economies of scope are also relevant when it comes to describing the company's costs. Examples of revenue streams include sale of assets, charging a usage fee, charging a subscription fee, making money from lending, renting, and leasing, licensing specific aspects of your product, service, or image, charging a brokerage fee, and advertising fees. Revenue streams can also be fixed price in nature, with an option to have a fixed list price, a price that depends on the selection of features, a price depending on the product segment, and a price that varies depending on the volume purchased by the customer. I will show you a few examples of business model canvases, starting with Microsoft Corporation provided by businessmodelanalyst.com. The analysis here focuses on Microsoft's software segment and ignores its hardware segment, such as the Surface line of products and the Xbox division. App developers are definitely key partners for Microsoft because apps cause customers to stick with the company's Windows operating system over other options like Android and iOS. Key activities for Microsoft include software development and marketing and sales, with its huge user base for Office and Windows, and its ownership of the proprietary software as its key resources. The software division of Microsoft provides the operating system and productivity suites that power many Office computers, and Microsoft also offers cloud services through OneDrive and Skype. For customer relationships, retail consumers are typically self-service, with better sales and support offered to enterprise-level customers. Distribution channels includes Microsoft's own website, direct sales and resellers through its own Microsoft stores, retailers, and original equipment manufacturers. The company mainly segments customers into retail customers and business or enterprise customers. Software development costs and salaries dominate Microsoft's costs, as well as the cost of maintaining its cloud infrastructure. Microsoft typically earns money through one-time licenses, such as Windows 10 and Office 2019, as well as annual subscriptions, such as Windows 365 and Office 365. Prior to COVID-19, Zoom is not widely known, but that has changed considerably, hasn't it? Key partners include Skype and calendaring apps such as Google Calendar and Outlook. Zoom focuses on the development and maintenance of their main platform, which serves as a key resource along with its video codec. Zoom has a freemium model, providing free video conferencing with a limit of 40 minutes if there are more than 2 people in the room. Subscribing to Zoom removes these limitations and unlocks more features. Zoom targets corporate users in businesses, universities, government offices, and in the healthcare sector, and offers both self-service and phone and chat support to business users. It mainly interfaces with customers through its website, zoom.com, as well as its Zoom app, available on desktop and mobile platforms. Since Zoom is a software company, majority of its costs deal with its human and intellectual resources. Zoom's revenue stream is purely derived from subscriptions paid by pro users and institutions. Moving on to Netflix. The company used to offer rental of DVDs by mail before moving on to streaming. Having content that users are willing to pay for is crucial to Netflix. So content licensing and acquisition, as well as content creation, are key activities. It must also maintain its platform, conduct marketing, and constantly analyze what its users are looking for. Accordingly, key resources include its intellectual property, namely the Netflix brand, app, website, original content, and recommendation algorithms. It has also amassed data on what people stream and has partnerships with actors, directors, and filmmakers. Since content is crucial, Netflix also has important ties with content owners, intellectual property holders, and filmmakers. It also contracts with internet service providers and Amazon Web Services to provide sufficient streaming bandwidth to make binge-watching Netflix an enjoyable experience for its users. The key value proposition Netflix offers is a simple subscription model that offers its users access to its content library on demand, with the ability to binge watch and supported by its well-tuned recommendation engine. Netflix has content that appeals to both mainstream and niche genres, and mainly engages customers through its app and social media accounts. It also reaches customers and partners through media outlets and participation in film festivals. Majority of Netflix's costs relate to content acquisition, delivery, and technology development. It is not cheap to license or film movies and TV shows. And neither is streaming petabytes of data cheap. In 2018, Netflix consumes 15% of the world's internet bandwidth. At the same time, Netflix must also maintain its system. The bulk of Netflix's revenues come from subscription fees. Although, since Netflix is now making shows itself, it has the option to license out its original content and perhaps do some product placement. Let's go with a more traditional manufacturing company as our final example. Beginning with Boeing's operating infrastructure, Boeing outsourced a lot of engineering and fabrication work to smaller companies in China, India, and Russia. It also has partnerships with key aerospace part suppliers such as UTC Aerospace Systems, Honeywell, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Leonardo S.p.A., Collins Aerospace, Labinal Power Systems, Thales Group, and Moog Inc. Key activities include production and problem solving, with Boeing having to design, produce, and test planes, as well as ensure quality. It must also innovate and conduct R&D in developing new aircraft designs. Key resources include physical assets such as hangars, manufacturing facilities, machinery, computer servers, and airfields. Intellectual assets such as the Boeing brand name and proprietary designs, and human resources, which leverages on its considerable aerospace engineering capabilities. Boeing has two main product divisions, each targeted towards a different kind of customer and providing a different value. Boeing Commercial Airplanes serves civilian aviation and focuses on optimizing performance, providing customization of jets, and reducing operating costs of its customers. Boeing Defense, Space and Security, on the other hand, serves the U.S. military and competes primarily on design and novelty of its concepts. For its customers, Boeing's Commercial Aviation Services has call centers that can provide live in-flight troubleshooting. It also has a dedicated customer representative for each airline client. Boeing also works with customers to create aircraft that matches the customer's requirements and specifications. Boeing fosters awareness of its brand by participating in air shows and making in-person sales calls. It receives customer feedback through its customer experience call center and marketing department. It provides financing services such as airplane leases through Boeing Capital Corporation and has a contracts department to facilitate delivery of planes. Finally, it provides warranties and after-sales servicing through its Commercial Aviation Services unit. As stated earlier, Boeing's two divisions target two distinct segments, with Boeing Commercial Airplanes serving commercial airlines and air freight companies with products such as the 787, 777, and Dreamliner, while Boeing Defense, Space and Security serves the military with the manufacture of fighter jets, helicopters, and satellites. Looking at the financial aspect, Boeing operates under a cost-driven model, with both divisions looking to reduce costs in order to meet customer needs. Costs are primarily driven by its human resources, capital spending, and supplier hardware. The cost of a single 747 exceeds $400 million in 2019. Boeing primarily earns through the sale of airplanes, military aircraft, satellites, and aircraft weaponry. However, it also provides leasing services through Boeing Capital Corporation to serve customers who can't afford the purchase price of a plane outright. We have mentioned earlier that the ultimate goal of strategy is to achieve sustainable competitive advantage, and that having a good business model increases your chance of success. How do you succeed in doing so? First, you need to have a winning strategy, which we define as a strategy that passes the competitive advantage test, in that it does actually help to achieve our goal. A strategy that fits the company's current situation, and a strategy that results in better performance. A strategy that passes all three of the tests is a winning strategy. However, this is not enough by itself. You must also have competent execution, but there are many ways to fail. A lack of a clear direction, having unclear targets, having a confusing strategy, and not executing properly. These can all result in failure. And you know that strategy has failed if the company is struggling in terms of financial performance, faces long-term business risk, and has management incapable or inadequate to perform their tasks. The process of strategic management begins with the development of a strategic vision, mission, and a set of values, which will be the topic for our next module. After this, we can set specific objectives, which helps us to create a strategy that can meet these objectives and move us along the path to achieve our vision. After a strategy is created, we implement and execute. And since strategy is a moving target, it is necessary to monitor developments, evaluate performance, and initiate necessary corrective adjustments. The strategy should be revised as needed in light of actual performance, changing conditions, the opening of new opportunities, and emergence of new ideas. This is, of course, only one view of the strategic management process. There are many alternative views, such as the 4D framework developed by Mike Hendren. What follows is a 10-minute video explainer created by Professor David Krasinski of Brigham Young University.
This strategy learning content is brought to you by the Marriott School of Business and the Center for Teaching and Learning at Brigham Young University. The strategy required for business performance is a lot like the strategy required to climb a mountain. You must carefully analyze the external environment, use insights about that environment to acquire the right resources and build the right capabilities, and then execute a tightly integrated and well-timed sequence of tactical moves. Our goal is to give you access to tools, logics, and frameworks to help you better climb the mountain in business and help you achieve the success you dream about. Strategy is a bit different from other management topics, which often focus on individual pieces of the business like accounting, marketing, finance, and information systems. In contrast, strategy focuses on the entire business as a whole. By taking this holistic approach, we will be asking really big picture questions about how to run a business, such as, first, what determines how well a business performs? Second, why do some companies succeed while other companies fail? Third, what, if anything, can managers actually do about it? A good strategy serves as an effective boundary marker for a company. Most people recognize that a great strategy helps a company decide what to do, but it also helps a company decide what not to do. When we have a clear strategy that we understand, we know how to better serve the markets where we compete, and we also have clear no criterion, meaning that we have clear rules for when to say no. Companies constantly face opportunities to do new things and grow in new directions, but companies with good strategies are able to determine which of these opportunities fit and which ones do not. One interesting illustration of this is Hulu, an online media streaming service that was founded as a joint venture of several major media companies. They were founded at a time when television and movie delivery technology was shifting from over-the-air broadcast, cable, and DVDs to streaming. Given its founding by traditional media companies including ABC, NBC, Fox, and Time Warner, it isn't surprising that Hulu's business model included attracting customers through high-quality content and then selling customer eyeballs to advertisers. Thus, Hulu was founded with a strategy that relied on making money through a combination of subscription services sold to consumers and spots sold to companies helping to advertise their products and services. They did this very effectively as they developed capabilities to work with advertisers and as they acquired and delivered high-quality content that consumers really liked. Thus, their strategy to compete effectively for both subscription and advertising dollars guided them in what resources and capabilities to develop as well as what tactical moves to make. But even paid subscribers had to view advertisements when watching their preferred programming on Hulu. Users were often frustrated, believing that they should not have advertisements with the premium service. But Hulu was actually very strategic about their decision to keep advertisements in the premium service. The premium users, while an important source of revenue, were not actually Hulu's most important customers. The advertisers were the core customers, and Hulu users were actually the product Hulu was selling to those advertisers. Thus, when premium users asked for no ads, Hulu simply said no, because eliminating ads was inconsistent with their core strategy at the time. In this case, Hulu's strategy helped them clarify both what they said yes to, as well as what they said no to. As we will see in subsequent topics, business success occurs at the intersection of a market opportunity and a firm's abilities to capitalize on that opportunity. Thus, the tools of strategy will help you simultaneously analyze market opportunities, or the external business environment, as well as the firm's internal resources and capabilities, or the extent to which the firm can effectively compete. While learning strategy, you will become familiar with many approaches, frameworks, models, and theories, such as external analysis, competitive dynamics, internal analysis, and so forth. Often these are studied one at a time, in isolation, without necessarily thinking about the limitations or how they can be used in combination. We want to be sure that you understand the strengths and limitations of each tool and, accordingly, help you develop a strategist's intuition for when and how to appropriately use the tools. Otherwise, you just end up with a messy drawer full of tools, making it difficult to decide which tool to use, and you may even end up trying to use the wrong tool for a given job. The real power of the strategy tools comes when you can pull out the right tool and use it appropriately, and when you can effectively use the tools together. When you can do this well, then your insights will be powerful. Before we dive into the actual strategy tools themselves, we want to give you a high-level overview of the 4 key ways strategists use their tools and frameworks, which we refer to as the 4 Ds, a framework for thinking about strategy developed by Mike Hendren. These are describe, diagnose, develop, and deploy. We briefly introduce each here. The first and most fundamental way to use strategy tools is to simply describe a strategy and the current strategic state of a business. Can you explain what a business is doing or attempting to do in a clear, coherent, understandable manner that covers the key areas of strategy? This is critical for both the executives who are managing the strategy as well as the employees who are expected to execute the strategy. For example, in what competitive environment is the company competing, and how is that company trying to win in that environment? Effectively describing strategy ensures that we are all on the same page in what to say yes to and what to say no to. The description phase is a bit like going in for a routine checkup with your doctor, where you provide some basic personal information like age, occupation, height, blood type, allergies, level of routine activity, and so forth. And then have other basic health indicators measured, like heart rate, blood pressure, and cholesterol level. Your doctor takes a look at all of these indicators and then can describe your current state of health. The second way to use strategy tools is to diagnose a situation. Often we begin thinking about strategy when things start to go badly for a company, or perhaps when we are incredibly successful. Naturally, we then want to understand why things are going well. Is a business succeeding or failing? Why? What might be wrong with the strategy? Consider a doctor trying to diagnose illness or injury in a patient by observing symptoms, conducting additional tests, and then using her knowledge of physiology and various conditions obtained in school and through experience. Even if a patient isn't ill, it can be valuable to make a general diagnosis to ensure the patient is healthy and able to engage in some physically demanding activity, such as climbing Everest or running a marathon. Similarly, a strategist examines the business holistically, using her tools and frameworks, and tries to hone in on the core problems and/or opportunities. Is this patient fit to prepare for a marathon, or do we need to determine a course of treatment? And how urgently does that treatment need to happen? Is the business positioned to grow aggressively, or do they need to fix internal issues? And do those fixes need to happen quickly, or can they happen gradually? Third, strategists use their tools to develop, design, or formulate new strategies. What could be done differently based on the problems and opportunities you identified in your diagnosis? This is akin to prescribing a treatment protocol for the patient. Will a prescription for antibiotics solve the problem? Or will it require something more drastic, like surgery? We come up with plans to update our strategy to ensure we are overcoming any issues and achieving the maximum success. This can also be the most exciting role for strategists. Fourth, strategic tools and frameworks can help as we work to implement or deploy our given strategy. What good is dreaming if we don't actually do it? In the case of the patient, they actually have to take the medicine, go through the surgery, and/or follow the diet and exercise regimen that has been prescribed. This is akin to ensuring that we have the resources and capabilities necessary to execute our strategy, and then putting procedures, policies, and practices in place to make sure that we implement effectively. Deployment or implementation is one of the most important and often one of the most difficult tasks for a strategic leader. We view these 4 Ds as being interconnected in a cycle. You might begin with describing your strategy and then proceed through diagnosing, developing, and deploying. But the cycle doesn't stop there. Our internal and external business environments are continually in flux. So as soon as we implement new strategies, we need to move through the cycle again to ensure that our new strategies fit with the challenges that are coming. And from time to time, we may pick one of these Ds and dive into it in depth to address a targeted need or problem. As you become more familiar with the strategy tools and frameworks, you will be better able to recognize in the moment whether you are using strategy tools to primarily help you with describing, diagnosing, developing, or deploying strategy. You will also be better able to pull out the right strategy tools and use them together effectively to help your company with exactly what they need in the moment to increase the odds of business success. So in summary, strategy is about answering the big picture business questions, and a good strategy acts as an effective boundary marker for the company. Great strategists become experts in strategy tools and learn how to use them independently and together as they work to describe, diagnose, develop, and deploy strategies. We hope you find our portfolio of materials useful as you become a great strategist.
For your project, I want you to identify the business model of your selected company and then fill up the company's business model canvas to see if this grants you some insights on what the company does and what it can do in the future. That's it for this video, and thank you for watching.